In our society, we are born into different economic, social, and cultural differences. Society's resources are not equally distributed among every individual, which makes it difficult for some to succeed. The term anomie came from Emil Durkheim to explain a state of normlessness. People do not want to feel alienated, that is why they form close knit communities. Durkheim focused on norms and how chaotic they can be. On the other hand, Merton focused on social structures between cultures and socially approved means for goals attainment. The main focus of anomie is a disparity between individual aspirations and social resources and how the use of substance is utilized.
So I got policy implications. Um, the enemy perspective is it shows the individual experience and social climate to understand substance abuse and use, obtain their individual experience from social interaction. The social agencies and agents should incorporate individuals and their social surroundings when it comes to dealing with substance problems. Public health, there are two major fronts that benefit professionals and officials from the enemy perspective. Their prevention and intervention. For prevention, they are able to design programs to educate the public about strain, life events, social change, and stress is usually explored through source, type, nature, and coping strategies. There are long-term monitoring and short-term.
Today I will be doing textbook 2, chapter 1, specifically the theoretical framework used. So, for my outline, I have the idea of an anomie means the lack of normal, ethical, or social standards. The concept was the concept is by Emil Durkheim, and he basically explained that moral confusion makes the individual lose their sense of the real world. Moral confusion causes the individual to feel either hopelessness, more like slaves, or handicapped, or the opposite, which is confidence, like a superhero. Rules of next bullet point is rules of how individuals interact with each other are going down, which is true. Anomie is a state where the expectations of behaviors are unclear and as a consequence causes defiant behavior. In polarized reaction, individuals either harshly blame themselves to the degree of self-shame or crucially charge society, even in the form of reversal, rebellion, or withdrawal. Next bullet point, lack of rules and regulations, clarity made frustration and despair. And in the end, wrap it up, the theoretical perspective of anomie makes the person choose criminal activity or substance abuse because the individual believes there is no reason not to or acceptable reaction.
So, hello, my name is Miguel Geary, and I'm going to be talking about theoretical image. Society is a resource, power, and status differential structure. Strain, uncertainty, and confusion like joy, sureness, and clearness are part of life and social dynamics. Substance enters the picture of life as a seduction, temptation, aid, companion, or scapegoat. People are seduced by some substances when they experience weak or loosening moral guidance from society. People are not able to resist the temptation of a substance and its mystified effects when they feel ambivalent and undecided about their approach to the substance because for the relief because for relief and comfort when they suffer from pain and stress in their life struggle. Substance use takes place amid social strain and moral decline. Under strain, substance use is a coping mechanism, excuse, escape defense, or rescue. For example, one feels use of coffee helps me through the most stressful part of the task. As an escape, substance use, abuse, and addiction pave the way to exit active social life. Page 8. People ignore the law because it's a controversial, incompatible with public perception, or unenforceable. For example, drug laws do not always generate the same level of attention, respect, enthusiasm, enthusiasm as criminal laws from both the general public and the criminal justice. Substance users are not just consumers of a substance. They are opportunists, drifters, sufferers, escapists, or double failure retreatists, or the stressed, the confused, the weak-willed, or the lost. Opportunity users include those who take a substance to gain base status, who use and deal drugs for profit. Drifting users are those who do not have their own definite attitudes about substance and use a substance when a lot of people use it. Escaping users engage in substance use to temporarily divert attention to dispel fear, to hide their real feeling, or to avoid reality.
The anomie perspective places substance users under specific social structural conditions individuals face in their lives. There are four theoretical components that primarily are important. Anomie can take place in various ways, whether it be in the form of normalness, lack of direction and confusion, or in the form of frustration, disappointment, and strain. Substance use and result of anomie can have multiple features, meaning the most common situations of moral confusion are overregulation, lack of regulation, conflicting regulation, and change in regulation. Regulation might involve knowledge, political climate, and public attitude, but it is not limited to rules, laws, or law enforcement. In terms of overregulation, confusion occurs when individuals begin to see very little justice in multiple social policies or practices in relation to what they themselves view in their common sense value system. Conflicting regulation might involve situations where law conflicting regulation may involve situations where laws governing production, distribution, and consumption of a substance are inconsistent, where public reports regarding the harms or benefits of a substance are contradictory. Conflict is not just a constant challenge for the law, but also a key to access its history because it reveals the normative options that the parties to the conflict realize. Conflict provides unique insight into the normative foundations of a society in the form of particular laws, sources of law such as legislation, customs, etc. Changes of regulation not only involve the changes in the social environment, enactment of law, strengthening law enforcement, and restricting social tolerance, but changes in personal circumstances as well, like migration, immigration, and job relocation. Strain does not always necessarily object itself in regard to deviant adaptations. Conformists might experience much more strain in terms of variety, severity, and amount than nonconformists who channel their strain through open deviations. Status strain comes from a particular status like age, gender, ethnicity, fitness model, or celebrity. An individual is to attribute to or achieve through his or her own effort. Success strain main focus is around work performance and achievement records. Role strain derives from specific roles that an individual has to play in work and life. Non-fault strain relates to social expectations as individuals wish that an individual looks positive, knows what's right, behaves appropriately, and never misconducts him or herself from private bedroom to public places. So the difference between nonconformists and conformists in their experience with strain is the prior contains strain by internal forces and the latter reveals it through external activities, either with or without aid from substances in both cases.
Hello, my name is Maria, and my title is Substance and Substance Use for some reason, opportunity, or resources. So, one of the reasons could be user may seek assistance from substance because of their mood or emotional need. They don't have anybody to talk with, so they have problem and they think the substance, drug, or everything else can help them. The second reason could be substance use could be an opportunity to respond to anomie. So they are lack of social or ethnical standard. Because of that, they using substance to show to their peers, to their environment that they are grow up and to gain some respect. Another one could be with using substance, they shield their feeling behind it And when it comes to explanation, their reasoning is that there is nothing wrong with me. So as we can see, the substance and drug and use of these things um, im- help some of people to um, not show their feelings to everybody else and dealing with that. They think drugs can help them, and because of that they using this stuff. Thank you.
Hello, today I'll be doing Victor Shaw's Textbook 2, Chapter 1. This time I'll be doing two sub-chapters, which is still a part of Anomy. So the first one is Anomy, Substance Abuse, and Individual Adjustment. Victor Shaw starts off with the moral confusion and strain being a main contribution of individuals' feelings and experiences. For example, the individual act is all up to the individual, no matter how the social environment is inductive or beneficial to the individual. In the occurrence or sustenance of anomy and substance abuse, it is the individual who makes crucial decisions about what to do in response to particular social situations. They make they may quickly burn and bury their past learnings and embrace the new situation with a fresh mind and no assuming attitude. The next point that Victor Shaw mentions relating to the individual's adjustment is the substance and substance use being an option. It is usually to those individuals who know about substance and its effect, who have access to substance and its dealers, who network with existing users, and who identify with various skills and motive of use. In this case of moral confusion, individuals may seek spiritual or religious conversion. In response to pressure for success, individuals may turn to inner forces rather than material stimulants or depressants for assistance. The example I used was one may engage in other activities to stay away from substance use and abuse by joining a church group or joining a community actions group just to withdraw from the lifestyle of being a beggar. And then part two of anomy and substance use is the social conditioning. And my first bullet point is, although I mentioned an individual adjustment makes a difference in one set of anomy and substance use, social conditioning provides the ultimate background in which individuals' choices made. People can easily be lost in the strong current of social, activated, and fueled mobility lifestyle around them. Aside from moral confusion, resources and opportunities in their social environments are unequally distributed across the population. Some accumulate too much wealth, gain too much status, or wield too much power, so they feel they are above the social norm. They can be anything they want. They have to keep what they have or whatever favorable image they perceive to be in the eyes of the public. This can be seen in celebrities like Kim Kardashian and even our President of the United States. Then I continue with the connection from anomy to substance and substance use is also made in a larger part by social conditions. So I have three conditions. First, some societies are corridors or trafficking and transports, meaning some um, some places of trade and exchange. Some might be destinations of use or consumptions. Basically, different societies have many different outlets to the substances. Second, there are different cultures that use substances differently. One may use drugs to deal with spiritual balance, while some use it to meditate or other things. Third, people in geographic locations play a big factor in default substance. For example that I have was tobacco in the Caribbean islands, which is easier to access and import and export. And in conclusion, individuals are born to different communities, social networks, and historical periods with different levels of knowledge and attitudes about their access to substance. Thank you, and that's all I have.
Theoretical applications. In theory, there are 5 questions we can ask to better understand how anomie and substance use are connected. The first question being whether humans are liable or vulnerable to substance use. When humans fall into moral confusion or strain, they may tend to use and abuse substances. This begs the question whether humans will inevitably fall into substance use if they are not given proper guidance. The second question is whether substance use is a natural and necessary condition of anomie. Anomie is a self-experience of disorientation, lack of direction, and anxiety. It is possible substances are used in order to sustain a level of tension within the body comparable to that of the mind. The third question asks whether substance use corrects or reverses the condition of anomie. Does it target the mind, lowering the level of fear or expectation it institutes upon itself? Or does it provide synchrony between both body and mind? The fourth question asks whether substance use confirms or reinforces a situation of confusion or strain. In confirmation, does it make one aware that either they failed or cannot handle the substance use on their own, also serving as a reality check to bring oneself back to normal? By reinforcement, does substance give one the illusion that he can go back to being normal, when in fact it pulls the individual further from his goal? Finally, the last question is whether substance use and abuse diverts attention from anomie without any alleviating or reinforcing effects. Is the original strain still there, left unattended, when a substance is used and abused? Also, does it produce any new strain when the attention is shifted to substance use and abuse?
Summary of empirical tests. Tests of the anomie perspective are discussed in this section, wherein a series of case studies are explored in order to learn about deviant and social behavior. More specifically, case studies follow participants who have substance abuse issues in order to uncover the reasons that lead to their use. Some factors that are assessed include normal confusion, stress in their lives, or a choice to retreat from social norms, socially acceptable goals. Some factors mentioned include the environment one is a part of when engaging in substance abuse, stressful situations that motivate someone to use substances as a means of coping, and when one begins to use substances due to failures in the conventional world. These three previously mentioned stages of one's life are often temporary, but substance abuse issues tend to stay even when the negative situations are improved or changed. To help further our understanding of those dealing with substance use and abuse, we can apply a historical analysis. A historical analysis follows a user's life from childhood onto adolescence and into adulthood. The change in age results in a change in social position, which is something that the user must learn to deal with throughout his or her life. Changes in social class, wealth, job, and power all have historical impact on a person who may turn to substance use as a result of these changes. The acceptability of the use of substances changes throughout the time as well. Society may begin to shun a substance it once indulged in, and vice versa.
So, my section will be covering life and community and a little bit of work and organization. So, the book states that life is not constant. There are many factors which may affect it, and also there are essential contrasts in life which people must understand. Some of these include long term versus short term, past versus future, principle versus contingency, outside versus inside, personal versus social, and appearance versus substance. There are also emotional concepts in life which may come into effect. One must have control over these emotions in order to build tolerance for anomic incidences. Communities are perfect examples of environments which require individuals to use their emotions in order to deal with the contrasts in life. The book states that neighborhoods in communities must overcome prejudice, avoid stereotyping, and embrace the diversity of life. How people in communities react to certain occurrences within the community can affect outcomes. One example in the book is how neighborhoods may react to a couple who are arguing. The way in which the neighbors decide to act can greatly affect the impact of the arguing couple. Stress and economic are big parts of life and can greatly impact people. The book states that with proper attitudes and actions, one can manage anxieties, crises, emergencies, and various other problems in life well without falling into victim of substance. So for the work and organization section, work is a way for people to measure their success and status in life. Because of this, work can also be the primary source of anxiety, stress, enemy. People generally put great amount of stress on themselves in order to succeed, and this can lead to problematic behavior. Individuals need to learn to put work into perspective with other important factors in their life, such as marriage, family, and friends, in order to have a healthy balance. And finally, one must understand that there is more to life than success in work.
Anime perspective. Seeing how an individual can accomplish within themselves. An individual that needs to stop having high expectations and achieve their goals without those expectations. People need to have a different outlook when it comes to their work. Besides work, family is one of the other important things in life. Work environment. Work environment is having a new way of hiring employees so that they don't have to feel uncomfortable when it comes to their sex or gender. Next, people have been employed to give other individuals a better idea or sense when it comes to the job. Next is some sort of list towards having certain opportunities available to better themselves in the workplace. Last but not least, an employer shows the different types of opportunities or jobs that would allow them to see what would happen in their future job or career.